Hello BookTube, back sooner than I thought it would be. This is the final part in my review of City by Clifford D. Simak, which I've been reading as part of a read-along organised by Shawn who is planning for the rest of this year to read a Simak book each month, and this month's was City. This week is the final week of the read-along, and I read the final three stories of City, which were Aesop, The Simple Way, and Epilog. Aesop covers sort of the human beings leaving Earth, pretty much leaving Earth either physically or mentally. And then The Simple Way and Epilog sort of you see Earth sort of post man, pretty much. Now in Aesop, at the end of Aesop sort of shows you the aftermath about 2,000 years after the previous story, Hobbies. At the end of that, John Webster, who was in Geneva, has come to the view that for dog civilization and sort of animal civilization to sort of develop fully, humans need to be removed from the equation, and so he had triggered a defence system around the city of Geneva, where the last sort of 5,000 human beings live, and this locks them into the city. For as I can tell, it seems like some sort of dome covers the city. I'd imagine this is sort of some kind of security against a missile attack in the past, and this locks in almost all of the 5,000 in there. And then John Webster goes to what's called sleep, which is pretty much suspended animation. Now he's also told Jenkins the robot, having visited his family's ancestral house in North America, to erase human knowledge of humans from dogs, and try and sort of get dogs to think that they came up with the idea themselves of speaking, and they developed sort of civilization themselves. And in this story, but at Aesop, he'd gone sort of about 2,000 years after 1,000 to 2,000 years after Hobbies, and you're seeing that Jenkins has pretty much done that. He has sort of got the dogs to forget about human beings as pretty much, to the extent that they don't even know what the word man or men means. The dogs have continued to sort of develop their civilization, and they have been able to sort of get other animals to speak and adopt their way of life, which importantly includes not killing things. And these animals include wolves, raccoons, mice, bears, owls, squirrels, and so on. And the dogs have also been continuing on their sort of listening for the sort of other planes of existence that they can see, but humans can't. Well, they're sort of aware of, the humans can't. The dogs call cobbly worlds, and they're sort of trying to find a way in the story into how to get into those worlds. And the story takes place. One of the big event that's sort of going on in the story is that Jenkins is turning 5,000, so the dogs are sort of having a birthday party for him, and they've given him a brand new body to put him in. And now, when I say that the animals don't know about humans, it's that they don't know about that men are called men. They do actually know humans, because when John Webster sort of cut Geneva off from the rest of the world, a small group of humans were outside of Geneva, led by Webster's son, living a sort of hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And they went on and survived. And eventually Jenkins found these people and brought them to the Webster house. However, these people are known to the animals as not men, but Websters. And so you have a group of these people live there. They work. They work there. They provide. They work the feeding stations for the animals, for example. One of these Websters is called Pete, who we meet in the story. And Pete and now Jenkins, when he bought the humans to live at Webster House, he made sure that they forgot about their history as an attempt to sort of integrate them into the dog civilization, to sort of remove the sort of violence and the capacity for violence and killing from humans. However, in this story, Webster discovers that is not possible. And he discovers this because the Webster called Pete develops what is a bow and arrow, though he doesn't know it's that until Jenkins explains to him that's what it is. And then he accidentally kills a robin. And Jenkins, when he hears about this, understands that humans cannot be integrated within this new sort of civilization. Something needs to be done with them. And so he goes to the mutant Pete. The mutant Joe, who's appeared at various points in the other stories, to try and come up with a solution. And he doesn't find Joe in his castle because the mutants have built these castles to keep living and keep humans at bay. And whilst Jenkins doesn't find Joe there, what he does find is that Joe and probably the other mutants, he's sort of inferred, have found ways to make doorways to the Cobbly worlds. And so this sort of gives Jenkins the idea of, right, the way to deal with difficulty with humans is to take them into one of these Cobbly worlds, and there they can live and thrive as human beings would. Meaning they can have their civilization, they can continue human civilization, and this won't affect, say, the animal civilization the dogs have developed. However, when Jenkins goes to find Peter, to sort of tell him to find out what's happened and sort of bring the humans through to this world, which he isn't going to immediately tell Jenkins isn't going to immediately tell them about. He finds Peter coming up against an animal which is described as a shadow, which is what the dogs called a cobbling, which kills a wolf, which is called Lupus, who is Peter's friend, but doesn't kill Peter because Peter's sort of anger and rage at the creature scares it that much that it sort of disappears out of the distance, goes back to the world it came from. And this sort of even more sort of reinforces to Jenkins that the humans need to need to have their own world where they can live separately from the animals. And so at the end of the story, he at a sort of picnic for humans that Jenkins holds. I think it's a part of his birthday celebrations. He sort of takes them off into this world and sets them up there. The next story, which is The Simple Way, is set 5,000 years after Aesop, roughly. Jenkins has been with the humans in this sort of other Earth, helping them set themselves up. And at the same time, the dogs have been continuing to develop their civilization with the other animals. And the wild robots who exist, because what happened when the humans all left, they left the robots there, and so the robots left their own devices, and they've been building rockets, and they've been taking off and going to explore the galaxy. And the animals have noticed that on the hillside, over the previous 100 years, ants have been building this sort of what is known as the building. It's about a building the size of Clifford Simak describes it as the size of a township. And the dogs have sort of estimated that eventually the ants will build this thing to cover the entire planet. And then, as the sort of dogs are wondering what they're going to do about this, Jenkins returns from the Cobbly world and is informed of what's going on, and he doesn't know what to do. He thinks well, that's not true. He thinks he knows he knows that something can be done, but he doesn't know what to do, and so he decides he needs to go to Geneva to ask John Webster what to do. And so he goes to Geneva, wakes John Webster up, and asks him what to do. And Webster says the way they used to deal with ants was they put some syrup. They get some syrup, put selecting poison in. The ants will then eat the poison. They go back to the nest, and then the poison will be spread around, and it will kill all the ants. And Jenkins thinks about this, but finds it unacceptable because it would break the rule of killing. And now, at the same time, the animals are also having a difficulty with overpopulation because none of them are dying. None of them are being killed. They're just living normally. And so all the animals are sort of living longer, and they're having more and more children, and sort of it's just you get into a period of overpopulation. So the animals are going off into the other Cobbly worlds to live sort of separately. And so the story ends with Jenkins going back to the dogs and just explaining you're going to have to go to other worlds. And then the final story, which is Epilog, deals with it's set probably many thousand years in the future. In the story, Jenkins has sort of tried to forget, though as a robot he can't, how long it's been, so the passage of time he doesn't actually know how long it's been. And he talks about how the dogs have finally left, and the only people on the planet, the only creatures on the planet are the mice who have stayed, and the ants who have built this huge building around the whole planet, except they've not built over Webster House and the sort of immediate acre. So it's described as being like a courtyard. You've got this planet-wide building, and then you've just got this sort of this empty sort of courtyard shape area, which is where the Webster House and the sort of acreage is built on is kept. And in the story, the ant building starts to the wall, the glass wall, because of this building the ants built is made just of glass, and he goes the wall in front of the house sort of cracks and a hole appears, and so Jenkins goes inside to see what's going on, and it looks like the ants have all died, that they've reached sort of the point that he seems from to Jenkins that once they've covered the whole world, their sort of point of being for ants existing has ceased, and so they sort of died off due to the lack of meaning. So it's similar to the way that the sort of things that happen with human beings. And so Jenkins sort of comes to this opinion. He's slightly disturbed by the fact that when the ants in Aesop, the ants had been able to build sort of miniature tiny robot ants which could get into robots, bury into the mind of robots, and then get them to go up to the building and help build the glass structure. And so when in Epilog, when Jenkins goes into this building through the crack, he finds what is a dead robot. Whereas Jenkins says robots can't die because then they're mechanical, they're not living creatures. But the robot is clearly dead, which sort of worries him. And then he returns back to the house, and as he does so, a rocket ship, a spaceship arrives, and it's a couple of robots who have been travelling the galaxy exploring, and they come back for him, and they offer to take him with them. And after sort of debating with himself whether he should go or not, he decides he should go because his loyalty to the house is no longer there because the dogs aren't there and the humans aren't there, so he's got nothing else keeping him there, so he goes with them, and that's how it ends. And so that's the final three stories. I've got to say, overall, I really enjoyed city. But also were bits that I found a bit ridiculous. So so in the initial stories, you got the idea of war effectively not happening, cities making war making war not so impossible, unlikely, so pretty well impossible. But and also the idea in one of the stories that murder has effectively stopped happening. But those things whilst I found them vaguely ridiculous, that didn't spoil my enjoyment of the story. Simak, the story is very philosophical, which I enjoyed as well. Simak's writing I found really easy to get into. The way he goes from character to character, from sort of character to character, all allows time to pass in the stories. Is that he doesn't give you he doesn't say 10 minutes later or something. He just goes from one sort of this sort of gap of a couple of lines, and then you move on to it. And I know Shawn said that sometimes people find disorientating, but I didn't. I found it sort of natural and flowed naturally. Simak's writing I found, as I say, really enjoyable. Particularly his description of landscapes, which were very effective, and really he was able to, in a few words, give you a real sense of the landscape. I know Shawn in the live stream said that Simak is sometimes sort of dismissively described as a pastoralist. I think that's right, he's a pastoralist, but I don't regard that as something dismissive. That's a compliment, because he really does get the landscape really well done. It really is well described, and you get a real sense of the land, of the sort of the landscape, the hills, the rivers, and sort of everything. And so much so that when you go back, for example, the particular landscape that you continue to go back to is the one around Webster House. And once you've read it in the second story, Huddling Pace, when you go back, there's Clifford Simak adds one or two details about it, but that sort of expands it, but you've still got that very strong sense of the place from Huddling Place, and that came across really well. And the characters as well I found very human, both the human ones and the dog, the animal ones, and Jenkins. I've got to say the first John Webster in the first story, City, did seem a bit of a cipher, but the rest of them didn't. The rest of them seemed like flesh and blood people who like real people. They didn't seem like characters, which the original John Webster did seem like a bit. But overall, I really enjoyed City, and I know that next month, or as I say, which will be Monday. I think Monday's the 1st of April, I believe. Shawn will be starting another Simak read along, which will be the Enchanted Pilgrimage, which I'm going to be taking part, because I'll be interested to see what Simak's like in Enchanted Pilgrimage is fantasy instead of science fiction, which City is, and also Enchanted Pilgrimage, as far as I can tell, is a proper novel, in the sense it was written as a single novel, which City wasn't. City was written as a fix-up novel, which means it was a collection of interlinked short stories which are then put together, slightly edited. Shawn says that the editing is very slight. Pretty much the only editing that was in there was in, I think, the first story, City, and maybe in Huddling Place, where they really add sort of references to Hiroshima and Nagasaki in City. Were pretty much the main changes for the first City as it appears in the novel City. Whereas Enchanted City, as far as I can tell, is just it's just a novel. It was written as a novel, and so I'll be interested to see if there's any difference in the way Simak writes between between City as a fictional novel and Enchanted Pilgrimage as an actual novel. So I'll be reading that. I will be putting up a video soon on my April TBR, which would obviously Enchanted Pilgrim will be on that. So with that, with that book trip, I'll say goodbye.